Hey everybody, I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com, and this is my detailed overview of the Roush cold air intake system available for your 2009 to 2014 5-liter powered F-150. In this detailed overview, I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of installing the Roush cold air intake system onto your 5-liter powered F-150. We'll talk about what's included with the kit, and we'll briefly cover some of the installation bits. Now, right on the surface, guys, I'm going to tell you this one is going to be very simple and very straightforward, using some basic hand tools. So let's call it 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, with a little bit more detail later in the video. So the Roush system that we have in this video is going to be a great choice for truck owners out there looking to go with a system from one of the most trusted names in Ford aftermarket tuning, and would prefer to pick up a system that will deliver a little bit more power, a little bit more sound, while still maintaining kind of that factory appearance. Now keep in mind, this is a no tune required system, so you can bolt this up and go without the need for a custom or can tune, but keep in mind an aftermarket tune will certainly help your possibilities when it comes to power. But let's first address the elephant in the room here with the Roush intake, and that of course is power expectations. Now despite what some aftermarket companies will tell you, you're not going to see massive gains when using a no tune required intake like this all by itself. Instead, you're looking at anywhere from high single digits to low double digits, and that is going to be best case scenario for most owners out there. The reality is Ford did a great job when designing the factory airbox in these particular trucks, so you're not going to see huge gains unless you go with an aftermarket intake that is tune required and therefore will feature a larger diameter mass airflow housing. Some of you guys might be saying to yourself, well hell, if I'm not seeing a ton of gains from this intake alone, why am I even checking this thing out? Well, there still are some benefits to be had. Again, a small bump in power without a tune is not uncommon. You will see more power with the tune like we just talked about. In addition to that, you will be getting a very well-made intake from Roush, something we're kind of used to seeing from the company, in addition to just a little bit more sound from that Coyote engine. And that's something some of our customer reviews have pointed out on the site. Check those out if you haven't done so already on the product page. But let's talk a little bit more about the construction materials and actually what you're getting with the Roush intake kit. And if you have any familiarity with Roush as a company, you kind of know where I'm going with this. As we just pointed out, you're getting a really solid build from tip to tip here, guys. Great materials and an absolutely perfect fitment. Roush does throw in one of their signature high flow filters. This is actually a dry filter. You can wash it, you can reuse it. It's gonna last you for many, many miles. And the best part is you don't have to worry about oiling this thing when you're done cleaning it. So in addition to the high flow dry filter, you're also receiving Roush's intake tube here for your 5-liter engine. Again, kind of a factory-like appearance with this kit. I think that's really cool. It does include the couplers already pre-installed for you, along with your composite mass airflow housing. That's where that guy goes right there. And then last but not least, the airbox portion with the Roush intake. And a lot of you guys are probably watching this going, hey, where's the lower portion? Well, here's what's going on with this thing, guys, and I really like this. As I mentioned earlier, the factory intake does kind of do a great job. It incorporates some nice cold air ducting, so it's pulling that fresh air in from the front of the truck. By keeping that lower portion of the airbox and all that cold air ducting, you're still taking advantage of that and all the stuff that Ford designed, but at the same time you're pairing it with Roush's components, including that high flow filter, so you're gonna be getting the best of both worlds. And because this is kind of an open element or open filter design, you're gonna be getting a ton more noise from that Coyote engine coming from under the hood, something that I think is personally awesome. A lot of our customers tend to agree with me. However, if you prefer to keep things quiet or have more of a factory-like experience, check out a sealed enclosure or a sealed airbox instead. There are a ton of options here on the site for your 2009 to 14 5-liter truck if you prefer one of those instead. And another smaller benefit with this particular design, it just allows you to keep an eye on that filter much easier. So you know when it comes time to clean this thing and you don't have to rip everything apart. So even though the Roush products are typically going to be more of a premium option here on the site, at least in my experience, the cold air intake system for your 5-liter truck doesn't come along with a premium price tag. In fact, you're looking right around the $300 price point for the Roush system, which in my opinion is a very solid buy. Now you can spend just as much, if not more, and get an intake system that's going to deliver very similar features. So again, in my opinion, this is going to be a great buy. Moving on to the installation, guys, and as I pointed out at the very top of this video, you're really not looking at anything too difficult here, so I'm sticking with my 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, maybe an hour from start to finish. However, depending on your level of expertise, I wouldn't be surprised if you got this one installed a little quicker. Everything else is very straightforward here, gang. In fact, you're really only looking at some basic hand tools. However, the one thing that might throw you for a little bit of a loop is a set of Torx bits or a Torx tool. That's going to be important because that will help you remove the mass airflow sensor and transfer it over to the new housing here from Roush. Other than that, you're really just going to remove that factory intake tube, the upper portion of the factory airbox, and that cheap paper element factory filter. Throw those aside and get to work with the new Roush. Using the included hardware and the very detailed instructions, you can get everything in place, again, 30 minutes to an hour tops, using an 8mm socket, 10mm socket, flathead screwdriver, and 1 beer. Wrapping things up, here's a few things I really enjoy about the Roush Cold Air. First and foremost, it's Roush. You know you're getting a really well-made system, but for not a lot of dough. Secondly, it's a great choice for truck owners out there who don't like a lot of flash under the hood and would maybe prefer something that would resemble more of a factory intake system. Last but not least, it's a great benefit when it comes to balancing both the factory intake and the aftermarket system because, again, you are maintaining that lower portion of the factory airbox. You're going to be getting a whole bunch of fresh, cool air dumping onto the high-flow dry filter from Roush. And since it is exposed, you're going to be getting a little bit more noise as well. So that is my review of the Roush Cold Air for your 5-liter powered F-150, which you can get right here at AmericanMuscle.com.